Greetings, YouTube. I am excited to be talking with this year's keynote speaker of ADEIL's 30th annual conference, Rena Palloff. Thank you so much, Rena, for joining us.
Happy to be here, Richard. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Rena, as part of our ADEIL interview series this year, I've loved just asking educators or people who work in education to share just a quick story. And I know there's so many to choose from, but to share a story about either one of your teachers or one of your students who's helped shape your work in education.
That is an incredibly great question. Actually, there weren't a lot of teachers who shaped my work in education. It's sort of in response to what I felt like wasn't the best teaching that has driven me. But I
Yeah.
do have a story about an incredible student who was one of my doctoral students, actually. There are so many students I could talk about, but she jumps up as kind of the example, the key example of my work and what supports my work. She is someone who is severely learning disabled and really struggled through most of her educational experience. She was somebody I actually met in Madison at the Madison conference,
Okay.
the annual distance teaching and learning conference,
Yes.
which was virtual this year. But she's someone I met there, and I started mentoring her actually before I officially became her mentor. I talked her into applying for a doctoral program because she was so good. I was teaching in a program that I had created on distance teaching and learning, and she enrolled in that program. And I felt like her talent, her talents could just go so much further. So I talked her into becoming a doctoral student, and she became my mentee. And this was a number of years ago. She has finished her degree, and she's a very talented instructional designer. And so she took a lot of the ideas, many of the ideas that I had written about in my books and applied them in doing faculty development work. So every summer she would do what she called a boot camp for faculty, where she would put all these ideas into place. And she was working with faculty who were teaching at the community college level. So we're not talking about, bachelor's level, well, undergraduate, they are undergraduate, but the lower level undergraduate. And they were not master's level, they were not definitely not doctoral level. So we're talking about instructors who are working with learners who have sort of basic skills. And she applied a lot of the principles of community building, working together in collaboration, as well as the use of technology to support all of that work. She has gone on to become one of the most talented instructional designers I've ever seen and worked with. She and I ended up presenting her work together at one of the Madison conferences. She's continued to present and has gotten and has actually, I believe, written a book with a colleague.
That's such a cool story. Such a cool story about just the when you have that that for your students to have that mentor where things really click. And as a teacher, when you have that someone seeing them grow and giving those opportunities to grow, just how powerful that is. So thank you for sharing that.
And she was an inspiration, and she inspires me.
Yeah.
Her determination and her talent inspires me.
Yeah. Thank you. No, thanks for sharing that inspiration. And again, one of the great ways of
Sure.
inspirations is going to conferences and getting all these stories and feedbacks and ideas. And again, we're honored to have you as our keynote speaker for this year's ADEIL conference. Can you give us just a quick preview or teaser about something we can look forward to hearing about with your talk this year?
Sure. Like many other people who work in the online learning distance education area, uh, we were all kind of blown away by the emergency use of online learning during COVID. I've done a lot of work since then in terms of looking at what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
So even though it was emergency remote teaching, um, there were some things that people did right. There was a lot that they didn't. And so, where do we go from here? Because obviously, what this showed us is that this is an option when we get into situations like this. And this isn't the first time that I've encountered this. I did a lot of work with the community colleges in Louisiana
Oh,
following Hurricane Katrina. And again, we used online learning as a way to keep education going at the community college level, particularly Delgado Community College. So I will be talking about what are the lessons learned and where do we go from here? How do we improve what people tried to do? And how can we actually prefer to be online? And many instructors don't. So how can we bridge that gap?
we'll look forward to hearing about how to bridge that gap and in general about distance learning moving forward. Really excited. We will see you all October 18th. See you there.